An office worker who has lived his entire life oppressed by his boss and job is transported to a new world, where the Dark King appoints him as a high-ranking commander in his army, believing that this simple office worker is the key to conquering the world. In a dark castle, the Dark King summons the high-ranking members of his demon army: Omandra, the infernal aggressor; Sylphid, the archmage of storms; Gnome, the mud bastion. Finally, he introduces the newest member, who will be a key part of his conquest: the foreign supervisor, Denosuke Uchimura. Uchimura was an ordinary office worker. He managed to land a job, and full of hope, gave it his all. However, as time passed, his efforts went unnoticed, unlike his colleagues who steadily climbed the corporate ladder. One day, he was informed that he would be transferred abroad as part of the company's expansion efforts. His colleagues thought it was a terrible idea, since starting a new branch was an incredibly demanding task. Nevertheless, Uchimura accepted and went abroad. He quickly discovered that the project lacked both equipment and manpower. Uchimura tried to speak with his boss, but he was simply ordered to continue the work without any support. Uchimura pleaded with his colleagues to stay and help him, but it was futile. He worked tirelessly, day after day, to single-handedly establish the branch, and his efforts eventually paid off. Soon, everything started functioning as it should. Then, Uchimura received a call informing him that he would be transferred to another country. Exhausted, he went for a walk, wondering why he stayed at a job where he wasn't valued. At that moment, an elderly woman accidentally hit him with her scooter, sending the poor man flying. He woke up in a strange world, surrounded by intimidating figures. The Dark King welcomed him, revealing that he was the one who summoned him. The Dark King announced that Uchimura would be a high-ranking officer and the foreign supervisor of his demon army. Uchimura couldn't believe that a downtrodden office worker like him would be named a general in an army. The Dark King presented Uchimura's resume, which stated that after 5 years of service, his company sent him abroad, where he learned a new language, educated the locals, and successfully managed a new business. After reviewing this record, the Dark King was convinced Uchimura was worthy of joining his army. Uchimura was pleased that his achievements were finally being recognized, but he doubted whether leading an army was a good career move. The Dark King assured him that his position as a high-ranking officer came with many benefits. His salary and authority would be equivalent to that of a department manager. He could choose his subordinates, and he would have the office of his choice. However, if he refused, he would be sent back to his world, as the Dark King would not force him to work against his will. Uchimura was surprised to hear this, as he never expected the Dark King to respect workers' rights so much. Even so, Uchimura began to recall all the demeaning comments from his boss and co-workers. He told the Dark King that his boss didn't value him because he failed to meet their expectations, and that he was considered trash, unworthy of working for the Dark King. The Dark King exploded, telling him not to accept such nonsense. He explained that fools only value what they can see and are incapable of looking into the shadows. He declared that he had seen Uchimura's work, which is why he wanted him as a subordinate, because he believed in his potential. Uchimura was still doubtful, so the Dark King said that neither his boss nor his company determined his worth. Only the Dark King can do it. That was why he had summoned him, because he needed him. The Dark King then asked Uchimura to decide: work for a fool who would exploit him, or serve the Dark King and aim for the top. Uchimura finally made his decision, but before he could announce it, he was interrupted by Omandra, who objected to having such a weak human on the high command. Her fellow commanders agreed. The Dark King understood their concerns and proposed putting Uchimura to the test. Uchimura accepted, albeit fearfully, as he lacked any physical abilities. Before he could clarify this, Omandra eagerly challenged him to a fight, expecting that humans from other worlds possessed special powers. Excited to test him, she launched a lethal kick. Uchimura thought it was the end for him, but the Dark King intervened just in time, saving him. He scolded Omandra, pointing out that her greatest flaw was being ruled by her emotions, and revealed that Uchimura had fainted from the shock. The Dark King clarified that Uchimura was an ordinary human with no special powers or abilities. This only strengthened Omandra's opposition. Gnome added that the army was composed of monsters, and having a human in command could cause problems, especially for the human. However, he admitted that most problems were usually caused by demons. Omandra, being a demon, accused Gnome species, the demi-humans, of being the ones who always complicated matters. The Dark King acknowledged the many tensions within the army, which was precisely why he believed Uchimura could help. He wasn't looking for a powerful human, but rather one with ingenuity. Uchimura woke up, begging not to be attacked. The Dark King reassured him and proposed a test suitable for his level. The army was trying to negotiate with neighboring tribes. The most challenging negotiation was with the Minotaur tribe. Uchimura's test would be to strike a deal with them. He advises him to speak with Ulmandra, who has been handling the negotiations so far. Ulmandra leads him through the castle's hallways, insulting him as they go. Uchimura wonders if this could be considered workplace harassment, though he concedes she has a point. He knows that a mere office worker like him doesn't bring much to the table. He recalls the Dark King's words, how he told him not to listen to fools, and that he was summoned because he was needed. Uchimura had always wanted to work for a boss who genuinely valued him, and that motivated him to do his best to meet expectations. They arrive at a large chamber where meetings are held. Ulmandra warns him that the Minotaurs are very fierce. Despite his nerves, Uchimura is determined to do his best. However, when he sees the massive beast, he becomes terrified and starts doubting himself again. Ulmandra offers to help him a bit, but all she does is shout at the Minotaur, who keeps insisting she doesn't understand. Ulmandra explains that the negotiation started well at first, but when it came to discussing terms, Terius simply became agitated and began refusing everything. For days, Terius continued rejecting every proposal and even brought in large amounts of straw to scatter across the chamber. After bringing him up to speed, Ulmandra leaves Uchimura to handle the situation on his own. Feeling hopeless against such a beast, Uchimura walks away, disheartened. Then, he remembers something and finds himself transported in his mind to his favorite bar. He takes a drink, as he reflects on the situation and recalls facing something similar before. A negotiation with men who became highly agitated and said no to everything. After finishing his drink, he returns to reality, determined to close the deal. Ulmandra finds Uchimura bagging the straw Terius had scattered. He tells her he's ready to give the negotiation a try. Ulmandra scoffs, saying it's impossible because Terius's demands are as immense as he is, and he has no interest in reaching an agreement. Uchimura replies that it doesn't matter. Since the negotiations started well, the stalemate must have been caused by a misunderstanding. He explains that the only way to achieve a deal is through patience, perseverance, and building trust. He grabs a bag of straw and assures her he will succeed. Ulmandra notices that Uchimura now looks much more confident. The next day, Ulmandra enters the chamber to find it in chaos, with straw scattered everywhere. She assumes something went terribly wrong. When Uchimura arrives, she demands to know what happened and where Terius is. He calmly replies that Terius is with the Dark King, signing the pact. The Minotaur tribe will now be their allies. Ulmandra is stunned that Uchimura managed to seal the deal in a single night and asks him how he did it. He explains that Terius wasn't refusing to negotiate. In fact, it was the opposite. Terius liked the deal. Uchimura recounts a past negotiation abroad where his partners had said no 1,000 times. The more adjustments he made to convince them, the more agitated they became. He thought they would never agree, but in the end, the partners enthusiastically accepted the deal. Uchimura explains that in some cultures, passionate negotiations are considered a good thing. That was the misunderstanding. When Uchimura spoke with Terius, they were able to understand each other. He adds that in Terius's tribe, bringing straw into the chamber is a gesture of courtesy. Terius hadn't wanted to sleep on the bed they gave him, preferring the floor. Since they had removed all the straw, he'd been having terrible nights and was sleep deprived. Terius had been frustrated because he couldn't communicate his thoughts in a way Ulmandra understood, which is why he kept saying, "You don't understand." Ulmandra realizes she hadn't made enough effort to understand him, but Terius interrupts, admitting the misunderstanding was mutual. He hadn't realized his actions were considered rude in their culture, and he apologizes. They shake hands and settle the matter. Terius thanks Uchimura for everything he did. With that, the Dark King proves to Ulmandra that Uchimura has the talent to see what others cannot. The Dark King congratulates Uchimura for his outstanding work and welcomes him to the High Command, confident that no one will question his talent after the results of this test. He asks Uchimura to raise his arm and gives him a symbol of his new rank, a golden bracelet with a green gem. He tells Uchimura not to hold back and to work freely, doing whatever he believes is best. Uchimura thanks him and promises to do his best. Ulmandra raises her arm to show her own bracelet and asks him to do the same. They state their names and ranks in the army and clash their bracelets together. Ulmandra explains that this is how her clan welcomes new friends. She warns him not to get too cocky, as she still doesn't fully acknowledge him. The Dark King knows his army still has a long way to go, but he trusts that Uchimura is the piece they need to set the entire demon army in action. Hey, if you made it to this part of the video, don't forget to write the word Exquisito in the comment section. Thank you so much and see you in the next video.